Good afternoon, this is Steve and thanks for joining. In this webinar we're going to be looking at the Unity Browse to URL feature. So this is a sort of an under the hood type of feature. Not a lot of people use it. I think not a lot of people understand it or what its capabilities are. And I think we're just going to sort of run through how it works and some use cases today. So Browse to URL, basically what we can do with Unity is that we can pop the default browser and we can also append some call information. So if you're making a call or receiving a call, we can add into the URL string some information about the call. This actually opens up a lot of possibilities how we can sort of meet some of the more bespoke customer requirements using your BroadSoft solution. We're going to look at a couple of those now. So just to sort of summarize what we're going to cover, we're going to first talk about Browse to URL alongside some of the other integration capabilities we have, because we do get some confusion sometimes about what Unity products do what and how they all sort of sit together. We're going to summarize those quickly. Then we're going to look at the actual feature itself, how it works, how to set it up. It's really straightforward. And then we're going to move into, like I say, some cases that we've seen in the field that we've been involved in. And lastly, sort of really the purpose of this call is to look at Salesforce, particularly the Salesforce Essentials. So I'll come on to that more, but Salesforce Essentials, for those that don't know, is the entry-level Salesforce CRM platform. It doesn't have the Salesforce API that is in the Professional and Enterprise. This in turn means that you cannot use any really of the sort of off-the-shelf BroadSoft connectors, including Unity CRM connector, because all of us rely on having the Salesforce API. We're going to come on to that a bit more, and like I say, we're going to actually run a live demo using Salesforce Essentials. So with that, let's just, like I say, frame where this product sits. So we're looking at two things today. We're looking at the Browse to URL, as we just talked about, and we're looking as well at the browser extension, because when we're looking at Salesforce Essentials and any other CRM actually for that matter, the browser extension is what gives us the click to dial. So when we're talking about Salesforce Essentials integration, we're talking about exposing to Salesforce Essentials the incoming caller ID, for example, and also what options have we got to click to dial. Both of those fall under the Browse to URL and browser extension. And I should say that those are both included with all of the Unity apps. So it doesn't matter what you're using, it's there anyway. To touch on a couple of the other options we have that we're not going to be drilling into on this webinar, we've got the CRM connector. So Unity CRM connector is where we can integrate with, again, with Salesforce, if it's professional or professional or enterprise, Microsoft Dynamics, and a few others. We say deep integration because it's doing a bit more than just screen popping and click to dial. It's profiling calls and queue and a few other things. That CRM connector is an add-on license. So it's an add-on for any other Unity product, unless you're using our contact center solution, where it's actually included as part of that product, and it journals web chats into the CRM and stuff like that. So if the customer has got Salesforce Professional or Salesforce Enterprise, Unity CRM connector is the product you need. If they haven't got that, if they've got Salesforce Essentials, Browse to URL and the browser extension can bridge some of that integration requirements, and that's really what we're going to be showing today. Lastly is the Unity Connect API, and this is a sort of a toolbox API that we have that allows you to allows a customer basically to embed BroadSoft call control, so answer, release, hold, resume, all that kind of stuff. They can embed that actually within their database application themselves. So that's the sort of where the products all sit. There's some overlap between them, but I hope that helps to make clear what options we have got. Looking at the actual feature itself, Browse to URL, as I mentioned, it's going to basically open up the default browser, and it's going to put that URL string, it's going to append some incoming or outgoing caller information. So by that we mean the most important, of course, typically is the incoming caller ID. So what it means is if a call comes in, we can open the browser, we can open Chrome or whatever the case may be, and then we can have a preset URL, and then we can append the incoming caller, the incoming CLI, basically, contact number. So we're not saying here that we're going to be able to screen pop another system, so Salesforce Essentials. I think it's really clear to get that terminology right. Certainly when talking to customers, we can't actually force the web server to do anything. All we can do is expose in that URL string all we can do is expose the information relating to the call. Okay, we can actually pull out virtually all of the parameters from BroadSoft of the call, including direction, inbound, outbound, whether it's a call center call, and that kind of stuff. We're going to look at that live in just a moment. So that's sort of how the functionality works. I think it's going to be real clear when we look at the demo, but let's just jump across to that now. We've got, there's two ways it can be configured. Best thing to do, let's just open it up. So there's two ways that you can configure the browse to URL. One of them is in settings. This is the same in all of the Unity products. So if I go into browser integration here, this is where you'll see I've actually populated this field here, so I'll come on to how I've arrived at this. So this is where you put the URL of the web server, and then we can append different information to it. In this case, I've put in contact number. So what's going to happen is that when a call comes in, this is going to be opened in Chrome, my default browser, and Unity is going to append to it the incoming CLI. So it's up to this web server, this is Salesforce in this example, but it's up to this web server to then perform a lookup. So we can't make it pop, but we can get it to perform a search. And then, of course, typically a phone number, contact number here is a unique identifier, so it should only match one record. I can turn it on through, is it through a contact center? Is it not through a contact center? So is it direct to my my DDI number, my DID number? We can configure some of those things. That's how to configure it locally in Unity. If you've got a number of customers, a number of users rather in the group that want to do this, we've got a shortcut, and there is in the Unity portal. So for people that are not familiar with this, this mirrors the same BroadWorks hierarchy. So it's got the service provider, reseller, enterprise group. I'm here at the group level. It could be the group or the enterprise. In fact, so this is an enterprise. And on the branding tab, I've got an option just down here, browse to URL. So if you want to actually nail it up for all of the customers in the group or the enterprise, all of the users, put it in there, and then as soon as people restart the Unity, they're going to pick it up. Okay. So that's how the feature works. So when we talked about, I mentioned before that we've got contact number, so that's the incoming CLI, that's the remote party's phone number if they're calling in. These are all of the delimiters that are available. I'm not going to go through all of these. This information is all available on our website. We have a page for CRM integration that talks about the different options, and then we've got some supporting documentation and resources where this is all available. But these are the delimiters that we can put in. So as I mentioned, we've got DNS here. So if you are running premium call centers on your BroadWorks platform, we can map out the incoming DNS basically. So you can also string several of these together. So you can have the DNS number, for example, and also the contact number. So perhaps if you were an insurance company and you've got motor vehicle insurance, landlord insurance, personal insurance, and you've got policyholders with all three, then you can map both what the incoming caller ID is and the DNS or the call center that's been called, and then pop appropriately on that, or expose that rather to your own system. So these are all the delimiters that are available. And I think if we skip on to the use cases, these are quite varied. Often these we see the browse to URL feature is often used in call centers for things like agent scripting, as an example. And also a similar sort of thing for sales promotion. Sorry about that. Somebody just called me. That was bad timing. So how that would work really is if I'm using the agent scripting, I take a call into the Caribbean Cruises, and then it just pops a page for me saying, and as the agent that is, so I can see the latest cruise offerings, or I can see what script I'm supposed to be saying. If I'm doing some collecting, or if I'm doing some customer surveys or that kind of stuff, if I'm making an outbound call, it can automatically pop the survey that's mapped to that particular campaign for me, so I can read all the questions out, fill it all in, all that kind of stuff. If the customer has their own database application, so if they've got like a CRM type system that they have not got off the shelf, like Dynamics or Salesforce or any of that kind of stuff, if they've built something themselves that's got a web front end, then again we can also work with that. The browse to URL feature and the browser click to dial is a great way to provide some integration. And so now for the demo. So with that, let's jump back into Salesforce. So so this is my Salesforce. So just to recap, SalesForce Essentials is a little bit tricky for everybody, for you guys as solution providers and for your customers, because as the entry level, it doesn't have the API. What is the workaround to try and provide any integration with this? Unity Browse to URL. So let me show you. I showed you before in this here. In the browser integration window here, so either in the Unity client or in the portal, it's populated here, but I'll tell you where we get that from. Simply, if we do a search in Salesforce, if I search on 079, which is a prefix for my mobile number here, I can see there's the string there. So there's the string, and there's the 079. So it's just simply a case of taking that, putting that into the browser integration field. You can see I've already done it, but I've replaced 079 with contact number because that's the delimiter that Unity is going to use. So with that, what I'm now going to do is going to make an incoming call to my extension, which is going to answer, and then it's going to pop. So I've got it set. You can actually, when the call comes in, there's going to be a little toast notification. I can click that, and that triggers the browser opening. Let me just make the call now. So what's going to happen, it's going to auto answer in a second, but if I just click this, so what it's going to do is it's going to open, let's try that one more time. Browser integration. So what's going to happen is this call is going to come in. When I answer the call, it's then going to basically open up Salesforce, and it's going to do a search on the incoming number, which is an 07 number. Any number in the browser, it doesn't have to be in a CRM, any number basically is clickable. Okay, so what's going to happen is I can click this, and then it's going to make the second call. If I do it again now, it's going to make the call out to you guys, and then out to this cellular number rather. It's going to put you guys on hold, and that's all running this extension. So it's not something the user has to find in the store themselves. It's pushed in, and you can also disable it. So if you wanted to remove it from one page that had a lot of numbers on it that aren't actually phone numbers, you can just you can configure it in options. You can also configure digit strings and all that kind of stuff. So if you don't want to do click to dial on a 4-digit number, for example, you can sort of hide all that. That's how it works. I'm going to do it one more time. So again, what's going to happen here is it's going to put you on hold very briefly. Actually, I'm going to do a conference really quick. So I'm going to call the cellular number. It's going to put you on hold. It's going to open an outbound call. I'm going to go back to Unity, hit conference, and then we'll all hear the phone ringing. Would I like to do it? Yes. So that's how the outbound click to dial works. Is there any other questions? Please feel free to sort of open them on the right-hand side, and we'll clear them down. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to reach out to us offline. No questions. Thanks, everybody, for attending, and hope you have a good day. Thank you.